myself, because sometimes I prejudge. Oftentimes, if I see a young black man with his pants hanging down low, his hat on backwards, and the dreads, I start thinking, dang man, what deal? It's not really fair, but it's what I do. And sometimes when I see a white guy with bald head, tattoos all up his neck, with teardrop out his eye, I start thinking, white supremacist. Now, as far as I know, he could be a Sunday school teacher. That's how I think. I don't want to pick on you. But for those of you who think that maybe you don't have a racist bone in your body, I'm going to pose a question. Suppose that there's a $25,000 prize to solve a great math question. You want that $25,000 prize. And you have an option of picking a helper. And one helper is white, one helper is Asian. Who are you picking? Who are you picking? Now, that kind of puts things in perspective. That's not such a bad thing. I mean, there's a stereotype about Asians being really good at math, but that's a prejudgment. That's a stereotype. Suppose in the same example that we're in a basketball league, it's still the $25,000 you get to win. And we've got 5 black guys and 5 Asians. Who are you picking for your team? I'm picking the tall guys. Ladies and gentlemen, the name of the summit gets directly to the heart of the matter. How do we fix Black America? Of course, that presumes that we believe that Black America is broken. Well, it is, and has been by various degrees for quite some time. Without a doubt, the past, present, and future of Black America is inextricably intertwined with the American experience, so that what you do with one will impact the other.
That's right.
So what needs fixing in America? In other words, what's wrong? Well, truthfully, if you're like me, it seems like just about everything. We're $31 trillion in debt. We have a record crime wave that's led by the social justice prosecutors who have weaponized the justice system. We seem to have mass shootings every week. Our schools are failing. We're overrun at our borders. We have red states and blue states, and everybody's a racist, and everybody's a sexist, and everybody's offended. Everybody's a victim. He's a she, she's a they. And how about safe and effective? Flatten the curve. Mandatory shutdowns. Social distance. Who was it that came up with the 6 feet? Why isn't it 5 feet 5 inches? Or 6 feet 10 inches? Mask or no mask is for our own good. You can go to Walmart, but you can't go to church. Big government, big tech, big media has censored you and canceled you. And the 3 biggest words in America today, diversity, inclusion, and equity, has replaced excellence, competence, and fairness. And let's not forget this. We're all in this together. Well, aside from these symptomatic absurdities, truth, justice, faith, and the American family are being redefined in real time by leftist ideology that very openly threatens to fundamentally alter what it means to be American. Under the seemingly innocuous banner of so-called social justice, socialism has established a solid root in a nation built on individual freedom, and the threat to destabilize our very foundations is real. Now, to the unsuspecting, social justice kind of sounds like a good thing. We're going to make everybody equal. Everybody gets the same. I don't know about you, but I don't want the same. I want better. Socialism itself sounded good to a people who felt betrayed by the constant reminder that America hasn't always made good on its holy quality thing. In fact, the economist Thomas Sowell, we saw him in the clip last night briefly, as a young man, he himself was a socialist. And later in life, he was asked why he gave up on socialism. His answer was profoundly well-reasoned. It didn't work, and it still doesn't. But that hasn't stopped the social justice movement from pushing its victimology agenda right down our throats. And its aim? to divide the people of this nation permanently through the weaponization of race, the reclassification of sex, and the the disestablishment, destabilization, boy, I had one of those moments. Destabilization of faith and the traditional family. And while there are alternatives to traditional families, it is the traditional family. Husbands and wives, fathers and mothers, raising children together in a loving home that provides the strongest foundation and the best opportunity for succeeding generations. Faith in God, we the people, and family. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the traditional family is in crisis. The divorce rate is exceeded only by the number of young people who see no value in the institution of marriage at all. And masculinity is routinely derided as toxic, unless, of course, it's used to describe a particular trait of a woman who identifies as a man. What have we done to our little boys? We're supposed to believe that women are no longer the only sex able to give birth. Birthing persons. I'm sorry, I had one. Well, it's okay for a male athlete who was ranked number 462 to identify and compete as a woman and win the NCAA National Championship gold medal. We're being encouraged to believe that it's okay for a 14-year-old child to mutilate her organs without her parental consent. And the very life of a child, an unborn child, continues to be targeted for destruction in a nation that loudly proclaimed the value of life 250 years ago as the first of its self-evident truths. Nowhere has the decline of the traditional family been more evident than in the black family. Prior to the big government programs of the 1960s, the black family was stable and largely intact. This, even though segregation and systemic discrimination were in full force. Fatherless homes then were 25%. We don't like that number, but it was manageable as compared to the 72% now. As the growth of big government has really done a number on Black America. And when did the tragedy of abortion become a civil right for a black woman?
Come on now.
You know, abortion is the only medical procedure where the sole objective is to kill another human being.
Yes, wow.
And with the United States population of blacks at 13%, criminal justice reformers will always protest the black incarceration rate of 38%, saying 38% compared to 13% proves that America is racist. That 38% is an interesting number because you know where else it is? It's the percentage of black women who have abortions. Same as the incarceration rate, same disproportionate number. Where is the left on abortion being racist? No, they celebrate. They literally celebrate the death of children, that particular black children. Of the 60 million unborn babies aborted in America over the past 50 years, 22 million were black. That's more black babies killed by abortion in 50 years than the entire population of black America in 1960. Or put another way, the 22 million babies killed represents 1/2 of the 45 million black Americans alive today. Now, someone should tell Stacey Abrams that killing 22 million black babies is the real black voter suppression.
Yeah.
Yes, America and black America are broken. I spent my entire legal career in public service, first as a local criminal prosecutor, and then as the Indiana Attorney General. While I'm not a preacher, I do consider myself a minister of sorts, a minister of justice. And as a minister of justice, I can tell you that I emphatically believe in America. I believe in the hope of America that is embodied within our first principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I believe in justice with no qualifiers. We don't need to talk about racial justice, social justice, economic justice. When we look at the Constitution of the United States, we, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, established justice. That was before all of the other things. Established justice was first. And although at times elusive, I'm still committed to justice for all, not some, not the preferred, but everyone.
Man.
Dr. Wallace asked me to speak today on responsible government. More to the point, what is government's role in fixing Black America? Well, Frederick Douglass addressed a similar question when he was asked, what shall we do with the Negro? And he responded, I have had but one answer from the beginning. Do nothing.
That's right. That's what he said.
Your doing with us has already played the mischief with us. Do nothing with us. He went on to say, if the apples will not remain on the tree of their own strength, if they are worm-eaten at the core, if they are early ripe and disposed to fall, let them fall. I'm not the tying or fastening them on the tree in any way, except by nature's plan. And if they will not stay there, let them fall. And if the Negro cannot stand on his own legs, let him fall also. All I ask is give him a chance to stand on his own legs. Let him alone. And so a responsible government would give him a chance to stand on his own and let him alone. Prior to the mid-19th century, the United States government could hardly be accused of giving blacks a chance. To the contrary, the failure to abolish slavery in conjunction with the new birth of freedom during our revolutionary years remains the single biggest whiff for freedom in the history of the world. The compromises made, though necessary as they may have been to establish a free and independent nation, nevertheless have contributed to nearly 250 years of hypocrisy and flawed legal doctrine that has scarred our republic. With the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 and the end of the Civil War 2 years later, the United States seized the opportunity to push the restart button on its official responsibility to Black America. And to their credit, Congress acted quickly with a series of amendments to the United States Constitution actually designed to fix the state of Black America. First, the 13th Amendment officially abolished slavery nearly 100 years after the Declaration of Independence. That skipped the issue. Next, the 14th Amendment was passed extending U.S. citizenship to all persons born in the United States, which applied to most blacks. And it further guaranteed equal protection under the law. And finally, the 15th Amendment provided black men the right to vote. I don't think this made women very happy, but it was the times. The United States government had now formally recognized the constitutional rights of the black former slave as a free voting citizen with rights ostensibly equal to anyone else. Civil rights for blacks had finally been achieved. Not for black men anyway. But sustaining those rights would prove to be a challenge. Over the next 2 decades, nearly 2,000 black men have been elected and served in public office. Black men were beginning to stand on their own legs, as Douglas had suggested. But they were far from being left alone. Throughout the South, state and local governments believing it to be their civic responsibility to systematically strip black men of their newfound franchise, adopted a variety of mechanisms to do just that. Poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses ultimately eliminated nearly all the black political gains by the beginning of the 20th century. These sinister tactics were far more effective at suppressing black voter turnout than requiring a photo ID on a Georgia driver's license. Next, the law didn't mean what it said it meant. The constitutional provision, equal protection under the law, was officially revisioned in Plessy v. Ferguson as separate but equal. And race segregation of blacks became the law of the land. Zealously enforced, I might add, by by Southern government officials. But these Southern Democrat governors, sheriffs, and police chiefs were not the only racists engaged in official segregation. One particular Northerner, himself a former president of an elite Ivy League institution and governor of New Jersey, President Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, a supposed champion promoting international peace and humanity through his envisioned League of Nations, directed the official segregation of the federal government and the United States military. Jim Crow segregation became official government policy of the South, and redlining and de facto segregation was the standard government practice in the North, and both had the same effect. Keep the black man from standing on his own. Well, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act, the government's answer to thwarting the stubborn racist practices still very much a staple of American life was the protected class. And the protected class meant as follows: readily identifiable groups with immutable characteristics that subjected members of the group to historical and widespread discrimination will be legally protected to make up for centuries of racial oppression. In other words, it was remedial in nature. It certainly makes sense. No other group had been as readily identifiable by their immutable characteristic skin color than Black Americans. And no other group in America had been so continuously subjected to the degree of historical atrocities as those endured by Black America, even despite the amended Constitution. So the rationale behind the designation of blacks needing to be protected was the recognition of the long-standing and severe damage done to blacks by not leaving them alone. And true enough, blacks made many gains as an identifiable protected racial class, but groups that had not suffered the same degree of historical discrimination and hostility have arguably benefited much more. Minority Business Enterprise Programs, MBEs, were established to correct policies that crippled black business opportunity to compete for state and federal projects. But these programs also permit other ethnic or minority groups and women that don't have the same history of discrimination. Who has benefited from protected class status more? And the list of the protected classes has continued to expand and expand and expand, and now includes, among others, sexual orientation and gender preferences. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my belief that the protected class has been permanently hijacked by the social justice bandits with the purpose to compel acceptance of certain behaviors, choices, and lifestyles as a matter of constitutional right. So, what does that mean? For them, it means gay is the new black. Transgender is the new black. Illegal aliens is the new black. Same-sex couples are the new black. The strategy is attach it to black and they won't fight back.
Yes.
The protected class no longer emphasizes the immutable or unchangeable characteristics against the lingering effects of historical discrimination, but rather it's become the protection of preferring one choice over another as a matter of political favor. The protected class has lost its remedial purpose. And logically, you can't even have a protected class without having a corresponding unprotected class. And to me, that doesn't sound very equitable. Every time a new protected group is added to the preferred or special list, the other protected groups are less protected or special. So the thing about being special is this: if everyone is special, then no one is special. And if no one is special, why are we even bothered? Malcolm X, in response to a question on the progress being made in race relations, said this: I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the initial blow made. So to borrow from Malcolm's metaphor, I'll ask this question: how does America heal a 400-year-old festering? Well, perhaps the answer is we don't. Maybe at best, we're left with a permanent scar. And it's our job to determine how best we manage this scar. Are we going to try to hide it? Cover it up? Pretend it's not there? That's reminiscent of these efforts to tear down monuments and rename history and revision our past. We can be angry, full of hatred and bitterness, looking for someone to blame. Look what they did to us. Or we can embrace our scars as a part of who we are and move forward in the spirit of forgiveness as we would want to be forgiven. Our scars don't have to define us.
That's true.
And I do believe that forgiveness is the key to racial harmony, without a doubt. We heard it yesterday from Dr. Bodie talking about sin redemption. It's the same thing. The power to release is absolutely amazing. Years ago, I had the misfortune of having someone I thought betrayed me. I went for 10 years not talking to this person. And what I found was the burden of carrying that hatred was killing me. And one day I saw the fellow in the grocery store and something came over me and I thought, I'm going to call him over and I'm going to release him. So I brought him over and said, you know, what you did years ago was just awful. I'm going to be a bigger man. I forgive you. I reached out and shook his hand. He rolled up and teared up. But you know what? I was the one who was released. I had no idea the burden that I was carrying with this animosity. So I know for a fact, and I'm sure most of you do as well, that releasing through forgiveness is genuinely the right way, although it's tough. Now, we have a lot of folks out there today, and actually some local governments in California, across the country, that are actually looking at the blame game. They want to say, well, we still want to stir this whole racial thing up. We want to make sure that we get everybody riled. We want to hear about reparations. So reparations fix America. And what are reparations? Payoffs today as compensation to certain qualifying blacks for treatment of previous generations and former slaves. Well, to now suggest that reparations for slavery will fix Black America 158 years after the Civil War defies logic. And it's incredible that there are actually people having conversations about it. But I actually calculated what it would take using a payoff figure of $100,000 per black person. Not that I think that $100,000 is a fair amount or even the right amount, as it seems to me almost anything is an insult. But just for calculation purposes, I figure if 45 million blacks with $100,000 each, that would be $4.5 trillion. But the real question is, what do you get? What happens after the payment has been made? Once I cash my check, am I paid off in full by Uncle Sam for all past atrocities from me and my family? Therefore, I can no longer complain about past practices. And what happens if tomorrow someone calls me a particular pejorative historically associated with blacks? Do I start a new clock for a future demand for reparations based on everything that happens post-check cash? And much like the minority business programs, how long before other groups or minorities start asserting their claims of oppression? Would not including that diversity be the equitable thing to do? One final point that I'd like to make about political empowerment. Since the mid-1960s, most of Black America has shackled themselves politically to a Democrat Party that does not share their values and has historically not been very friendly. And yet Democrats have a cult-like dominance built on black dependence on government.
Yes.
And the false narrative that the Republicans are nothing but a bunch of white supremacists.
True.
As a consequence, one party takes blacks for granted, and the other party largely ignores them. Black voters have come to equate big government with better for blacks. And that perception benefits the social justice crowd as they're all about pumping up the size of government. But it's proven disastrous to Black America. Black political independence is a certain key to the future of Black America and the future of America. Black political independence is not tied to a particular party platform, but rather to a value system most beneficial to Black empowerment through faith, through family, and through economic opportunity. Would force both parties to adjust their relationship and platform to more fully consider the interests and objectives of Black America. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.